Hello, I am Sam, and you are listening to Chilliteracy on this Saturday, the 6th of April, where, I thought I'd timestamp things. Hey, what's up? How's it going? How are you all? How is everyone? Are we all here and present and well? But yeah, hi. I'm here. It's heckin' windy outside. I don't know. That in theory shouldn't be coming through on the microphone, hopefully. But yeah. Hi, hello. How are we all? I'm going to be reading you some Mark Twain short stories a little bit later on. Not in too long, because we've got some stories. I don't know how long the things are going to be. I think I was saying last time, I sort of struggled to judge the length in terms of reading time with these stories. But we'll do some stories, and hopefully it's a good time. You were doing drawing for the first time forever. Oh, nice, Salad. Yeah, good luck. I hope that's going well. And Parola, yeah, happy to provide a distraction from the gig missing outs. I guess I kind of had the option to possibly be there this evening. I mean, yeah. Don't worry, I'm not going to sit and hey, I want a distraction from the feeling of sadness that I'm not at a gig. Well, guess what? The guy who's trying to provide that distraction just going to sit and talk about the... No, I'm not going to do that, don't worry. It did like a good one, but also I'm not sure I would cope very well with it today. So yeah, I'm happy to be here to read some stories and provide some entertainment and distraction. Army, you just got home and turned the computer on in time. You were good. You have a belly full of iftar. Yeah, iftar couscous. Sorry, wasn't sure of that. Yeah, there was a T there. Yeah, iftar couscous. Lovely, nice. I hope that is satisfying. Yeah. What do I have to say? Do I have things to say? I guess. Actually, yeah. This isn't a hey. I'm going to send people over to the social media accounts. Don't feel you have to. But Lucy has been diligently making little clips and things to go up on our Instagram and TikTok. Those are the ones. Yeah, good. Oh, the brain's working this evening, let me tell you. Yeah, and we've been posting them up, and I'm genuinely baffled because I do not understand. It is one of my jobs, and yet I do not understand other social medias. When you post something up on TikTok and it gets not even hyperbolic exaggeration, literally 0 views, and other things have more than 0 views. Our Instagram's looking quite aesthetic, trademark. Indeed it is. You've been doing some lovely work. But yeah, literally exactly 0 views, even though I have watched it myself a few times just to check whether things are working properly. So evidently not. But it's kind of baffling when you do that and you put something up and 1,800 people watch one, and sure, whatever, you don't know whether they like it or not, but that's some eyeballs on a thing. That's nice. And you put another one up and it's 0. I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. I don't get it. So I'm going to sit and rant at the cloud for a bit. But yeah, I don't know, if you want to check out the TikTok and help in a scientific experiment and see whether it's actually counting numbers if you watch a thing. But if you don't, that's also fine too. You engage with our content on any level that you feel comfortable, and anything that goes beyond that, then don't do it. Algorithms are eldritch beings that nobody understands. I feel, I don't know in whereabouts I've said this, so I'm probably repeating myself, but genuinely it feels like modern day mysticism. We have deliberately created these systems to be inscrutable, because if they are scrutable, if they can be scruted, then people will do that, and the platforms don't want them to be scruted. They want them to be unscrutable, so that people just put stuff up and the platform can control what goes where and how it gets distributed. Because if you know the system, if you can understand it, then you can game it and play it and tailor your content to do the things that the system wants and prioritizes, and not do the things that it doesn't, to maximize your viewership and effectively generate more income. And they don't want you doing that, it's kind of understandable, because it's this weird battle where they want you to make the stuff you want to make, but also if you do that, it might not work for the systems they've created, so they say no, but guess. And so what you have now is mystics, is people whose job it is to like scry and perceive and divine what the algorithm wants. And you know, I feel like the current information we have is like YouTube wants you to do one thing and one thing only, whatever that is. If it's music, you will only do music. If it is gaming content, you will only do gaming content. If it is React content, you will only, and it's like, that's it. This is your category and you do that. If you step outside that, your views tank, we won't distribute you to anyone, no one will see your work, you will disappear and fade off into the ether. And I don't know YouTube have ever actually stated that, but this is what people have divined from observing the signs and dowsing the ley lines and reading the tea leaves and whatever the hell else people do to try and infer this. And like, we've built this system. This is our modern day magic, and it's great. It's very good. Hey, Lady Mephistopheles, welcome in. How are you? Probably you're going to reread the Voyage stories now that you have the companion book. Hey, nice. I hope they are extra enjoyable in that format. Enjoy the words. I mean, like, for me, genuinely, I much prefer reading stuff off a physical paper page than off a screen. Yeah. So yeah, I am glad that... actually, yeah, I just realised that means, obviously, I've been following... Yes, Lucy. Been following your ordeal with getting your stuff, down to the, like, waiting ages, days, weeks, whatever, for it to come through, and then literally being unavailable for the 3 minutes that the driver chooses to rock up to your door, knock, realise you're not around, you've ceased to exist, and then go again with your stuff. Yeah, but I'm glad that now you have your stuff, and hopefully you can enjoy it, and that it is all there. Yeah, I have been seeing people's responses to Sandbag's excellent work at distributing things. I don't know where the problem lies. I don't know really much more information than anyone else. But yeah, it's not been great. It's been a real shame to see. Yeah, I don't know. It's not good. Reading physical book is so much nicer than reading off screen. Yup. Yeah. Sad, you're always glad you have barely an online presence, saves a lot of fuss. I found out recently that apparently I also have a barely online presence, which was kind of a surprise to me, because I feel like I'm a reasonably online person. I'm not like fully, but you know, I've got a little bit of the online brain poisoning going on. I think that's fair to say. And so I was surprised to find out that actually I don't have a huge, like, discoverable footprint on the internet. It's kind of nice to know, actually. I'm quite happy to slip into those cracks a bit. But yeah, so that's good. That's exciting. You're better than you were. Got some steroids from the doctor that make your cough more manageable. Hey, good. Okay, I hope that helps. Yeah. So, what do we have tonight? We have a selection of short stories by Mark Samuel Clemens Twain, which I don't know how many of these we'll do and get through. I figure I'll just do them in some sort of order. The first one will probably be this thing called The Stolen White Elephant, which... I didn't put the title. Why am I not able to pin... But I can. It did pin. What is going on, Twitch? When I pin a message, it pop... No, wait, Lucy did that. You did that? Pin... Wait, yeah, you pinned. Yeah, okay, so I don't... It's because I saw my name, but my name was on the post, pinned by you. I don't get why Twitch is currently not letting me pin things. In the extremely helpful modern parlance of our times, something went wrong. That's it. Something went wrong. You're going to tell me what? You're going to give me an error code, any sort of useful information. I realise this is turning into cynical old man rants at cloud, which probably going to be the topic for the evening, to be fair. I don't... Just give me some information. Trust me as a functional human adult that I can handle some information and perhaps infer or divine some solution to this myself, or figure out who to contact. Anyway, right. This will be the first story for this evening. It is called, I need to remind myself again, The Stolen White Elephant. We're going to get to it in a second, but first a couple of notes. As I actually find, talking physical books, I will find it in my physical book. There is a little bit of, like, I guess colonialism kind of as a topic, not like going hard into the subject, but, you know, we're talking about a white elephant being gifted to Great Britain from Siam, which, you know, it's like, there's a few bits there that I think canon would be a bit different if written today. You know, stuff like that. There is also a line later on, towards the end of the story, which references minstrels doing stuff, just like, yeah, and in the context in which it is written, it probably refers to, you know, the racist stage performers of minstrels. What's the line? This gave the minstrels an idea, and they dressed themselves as detectives and hunted the elephant on the stage in the most extravagant way. And it's like, I mean, obviously I've just read the line now, but I'm just saying, like, I'm going to leave that line out, because now I can give it some context and explanation. I'm going to leave that line out of the actual reading of it, just because it's not cool. Maybe, and I couldn't be doing with thinking up an alternative. So, yeah, there's that. We're just going to skip references to minstrels. But the rest of it, I think is okay. I feel like it's making fun of the right places and people. But hey, perhaps it's one we can have a discussion. Like, I don't want to, like... the title of this teaser rings a bell. You may have read the story. I want to see if the memory exists as I read. Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, I don't know. We can have a chat about this afterwards. I feel like I've set this up way too much in the wrong direction. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. I'll read the story and we can chat about it afterwards. I'm on a weird one today, folks. Just to warn you. So yeah, I apologise in advance. Right. Let's have a story. Let's read a story and enjoy ourselves a story. This is The Stolen White Elephant by Mark Twain. Part 1. The following curious history was related to me by a chance railway acquaintance. He was a gentleman more than 70 years of age, and his thoroughly good and gentle face and earnest and sincere manner imprinted the unmistakable stamp of truth upon every statement which fell from his lips. He said, "You know, in what reverence the royal white elephant of Siam is held by the people of that country. You know it is sacred to kings. Only kings may possess it, and that it is, indeed, in a measure even superior to kings, since it receives not merely honour but worship. Very well. 5 years ago, when the troubles concerning the frontier line arose between Great Britain and Siam, it was presently manifest that Siam had been in the wrong. Therefore, every reparation was quickly made, and the British representative stated that he was satisfied, and the past should be forgotten. This greatly relieved the King of Siam, and partly as a token of gratitude, but partly also perhaps to wipe out any little remaining vestige of unpleasantness which England might feel toward him, he wished to send the Queen a present. The sole sure way of propitiating an enemy according to Oriental ideas. This present ought not only to be a royal one, but transcendently royal. Wherefore, what offering could be so meet as that of a white elephant? My position in the Indian civil service was such that I was deemed peculiarly worthy of the honour of conveying the present to Her Majesty. A ship was fitted out for me and my servants and the officers and attendants of the Elephant, and in due time I arrived in New York Harbour and placed my royal charge in admirable quarters in Jersey City. It was necessary to remain a while in order to recruit the animal's health before resuming the voyage. All went well during a fortnight. Then my calamities began. The white elephant was stolen. I was called up at the dead of night and informed of this fearful misfortune. For some moments I was beside myself with terror and anxiety. I was helpless. Then I grew calmer and collected my faculties. I soon saw my course, for indeed there was but the one course for an intelligent man to pursue. Late as it was, I flew to New York and got a policeman to conduct me to the headquarters of the detective force. Fortunately, I arrived in time, though the chief of the force, the celebrated Inspector Blunt, was just on the point of leaving for his home. He was a man of middle size and compact frame, and when he was thinking deeply he had a way of knitting his brows and tapping his forehead reflectively with his finger, which impressed you at once with the conviction that you stood in the presence of a person of no common order. The very sight of him gave me confidence and made me hopeful. I stated my errand. It did not flurry him in the least. It had no more visible effect upon his iron self-possession than if I had told him somebody had stolen my dog. He motioned me to a seat and said, calmly, "Allow me to think a moment, please." So saying, he sat down at his office table and leaned his head upon his hand. Several clerks were at work at the other end of the room. The scratching of their pens was all the sound I heard during the next 6 or 7 minutes. Meantime, the inspector sat there, buried in thought. Finally, he raised his head, and there was that in the firm lines of his face which showed me that his brain had done its work and his plan was made. Said he, and his voice was low and impressive, "This is no ordinary case. Every step must be warily taken. Each step must be made sure before the next is ventured. And secrecy must be observed. Secrecy profound and absolute. Speak to no one about the matter, not even the reporters. I will take care of them. I will see that they get only what it may suit my ends to let them know." He touched a bell. A youth appeared. "Alaric, tell the reporters to remain for the present." The boy retired. "Now let us proceed to business, and systematically. Nothing can be accomplished in this trade of mine without strict and minute method." He took a pen and some paper. "Now, name of the elephant." "Hassan ben Ali ben Selim Abdallah Mohammed Moise Al-Hamal Jamset Jijiboy Dulip Sultan Ebu Budpor." "Very well. Given name?" "Jumbo." "Very well. Place of birth?" "The capital city of Siam." "Parents living?" "No. Dead." "Had they any other issue besides this one?" "None. He was an only child." "Very well. These matters are sufficient under that head. Now, please describe the elephant and leave out no particular, however insignificant. That is, insignificant from your point of view. To men in my profession there are no insignificant particulars. They do not exist." I described. He wrote. When I was done, he said, "Now listen. If I have made any mistakes, correct me." He read as follows. Height 19 feet. Length from apex to forehead to insertion of tail 26 feet. Length of trunk 16 feet. Length of tail 6 feet. Total length, including trunk and tail, 48 feet. Length of tusks 9.5 feet. Ears in keeping with these dimensions. Footprint resembles the mark left when one upends a barrel in the snow. colour of the elephant a dull white. Has a hole the size of a plate in each ear for the insertion of jewellery, and possesses the habit in a remarkable degree of squirting water upon spectators, and of maltreating with his trunk not only such persons as he is acquainted with, but even entire strangers. Limps slightly with his right hind leg, and has a small scar in his left armpit caused by a former boil. Had on, when stolen, a castle containing seats for 15 persons, and a gold cloth saddle blanket the size of an ordinary carpet. There were no mistakes. The inspector touched the bell, handed the description to Alaric, and said, "Have 50,000 copies of this printed at once and mailed to every detective office and pawnbroker's shop in the continent." Alaric retired. "There. So far, so good. Next, I must have a photograph of the property." I gave him one. He examined it critically and said, "It must do, since we can do no better, but he has his trunk curled up and tucked into his mouth. That is unfortunate, and is calculated to mislead, for, of course, he does not usually have it in that position." He touched his bell. "Alaric, have 50,000 copies of this photograph made the first thing in the morning, and mail them with the descriptive circulars." Alaric retired to execute his orders. The inspector said, "It will be necessary to offer a reward, of course. Now, as to the amount?" "What sum would you suggest?" "To begin with, I should say, $25,000. It is an intricate and difficult business. There are 1,000 avenues of escape and opportunities of concealment. These thieves have friends and pals everywhere." "Bless me, do you know who they are?" The wary face, practised in concealing the thoughts and feelings within, gave me no token, nor yet the replying words, so quietly uttered, "Never mind about that. I may and I may not. We generally gather a pretty shrewd inkling of who our man is by the manner of his work and the size of the game he goes after. We are not dealing with a pickpocket or a hall thief now, make up your mind to that. This property was not lifted by a novice. But as I was saying, considering the amount of travel which will have to be done, and the diligence with which the thieves will cover up their traces as they move along, 25,000 may be too small a sum to offer. Yet I think it worthwhile to start with that." So we determined upon that figure as a beginning. Then this man, whom nothing escaped which could by any possibility be made to serve as a clue, he said, "There are cases in detective history to show that criminals have been detected through peculiarities in their appetites. Now, what does his elephant eat, and how much?" "Well, as to what he eats, he will eat anything. He will eat a man, he will eat a Bible, he will eat anything between a man and a Bible." "Good, very good indeed, but too general. Details are necessary. Details are the only valuable things in our trade." "Very well. As to men, at one meal, or if you prefer during one day, how many men will he eat, if fresh?" "He would not care whether they were fresh or not. At a single meal he would eat 5 ordinary men." "Very good. 5 men. We will put that down. What nationalities would he prefer?" "He is indifferent about nationalities. He prefers acquaintances, but is not prejudiced against strangers." "Very good. Now, as to Bibles, how many Bibles would he eat at a meal?" "He would eat an entire edition." "It is hardly succinct enough. Do you mean the ordinary octavo or the family illustrated?" "I think he would be indifferent to illustrations. That is, I think he would not value illustrations above simple letterpress." "No, you do not get my idea. I refer to bulk. The ordinary octavo Bible weighs about 2.5 pounds, while the great quarto with the illustrations weighs 10 or 12. How many Dore Bibles would he eat at a meal?" "If you knew this elephant, you could not ask. He would take what they had." "Well, put it in dollars and cents, then. We must get at it somehow. The Dore costs $100 a copy, Russia, leather, beveled. He would require about $50,000 worth, say an edition of 500 copies. Now that is more exact. I will put that down." "Very well. He likes men and Bibles. So far, so good. What else will he eat? I want particulars." "He will leave Bibles to eat bricks. He will leave bricks to eat bottles. He will leave bottles to eat clothing. He will leave clothing to eat cats. He will leave cats to eat oysters. He will leave oysters to eat ham. He will leave ham to eat sugar. He will leave sugar to eat pie. He will leave pie to eat potatoes. He will leave potatoes to eat bran. And he will leave bran to eat hay. He will leave hay to eat oats. He will leave oats to eat rice, for he was mainly raised on it. But there is nothing whatever that he will not eat but European butter, and he would eat that if he could taste it. Very good. General quantity at a meal, say about, anywhere from a quarter to half a ton. And he drinks everything that is fluid. Milk, water, whiskey, molasses, castor oil, camphene, carbolic acid. It is no use to go into particulars. Whatever fluids occur to you to set it down, he will drink anything that is fluid, except European coffee. Very good. As to quantity, put down 5 to 15 barrels. His thirst varies. His other appetites do not. These things are unusual. They ought to furnish quite good clues towards tracing him. He touched the bell. Alaric, summon Captain Burns. Burns appeared. Inspector Blunt unfolded the whole matter to him, detail by detail. Then he said, in the clear, decisive tones of a man whose plans are clearly defined in his head, and who is accustomed to command, Captain Burns, detail Detective Jones, Davis, Halsey, Bates, and Hackett to shadow the elephant. Yes, sir. Detail Detectives Moses, Dakin, Murphy, Rogers, Tupper, Higgins, and Bartholomew to shadow the thieves. Yes, sir. Place a strong guard, a guard of 30 picked men with a relief of 30, over the place from whence the elephant was stolen, to keep strict watch there night and day, and allow none to approach, except reporters, without written authority from me. Yes, sir. Place detectives in plain clothes in the railway, steamship, and ferry depots, and upon all roadways leading out of Jersey City, with orders to search all suspicious persons. Yes, sir. Furnish all these men with photograph and accompanying description of the elephant, and instruct them to search all trains and outgoing ferry boats and other vessels. Yes, sir. If the elephant should be found, let him be seized, and the information forwarded to me by telegraph. Yes, sir. Let me be informed at once if any clues should be found, footprints of the animal or anything of that kind. Yes, sir. Get an order commanding the harbour police to patrol the frontages vigilantly. Yes, sir. Dispatch detectives in plain clothes over all the railways, north as far as Canada, west as far as Ohio, south as far as Washington. Yes, sir. Place experts in all the telegraph offices to listen to all messages, and let them require that all cipher dispatches be interpreted to them. Yes, sir. Let all these things be done with the utmost secrecy, mind. The most impenetrable secrecy. Yes, sir. Report to me promptly at the usual hour. Yes, sir. Go. Yes, sir. He was gone. Inspector Blunt was silent and thoughtful a moment, while the fire in his eye cooled down and faded out. Then he turned to me and said in a placid voice, I'm not given to boasting, it is not my habit, but we shall find the elephant. I shook him warmly by the hand and thanked him, and I felt my thanks too. The more I had seen of the man, the more I liked him, and the more I admired him and marvelled over the mysterious wonders of his profession. Then we parted for the night, and I went home with a far happier heart than I had carried with me to his office. Part 2. Next morning, it was all in the newspapers, in the minutest detail. It even had additions, consisting of Detective This, Detective That, and Detective the Other's theory as to how the robbery was done, who the robbers were, and whither they had flown with their booty. There were 11 of these theories, and they covered all the possibilities, and this single fact shows what independent thinkers detectives are. No two theories were alike, or even much resembled each other, save in one striking particular, and in that one all the other 11 theories were absolutely agreed. That was, that although the rear of the building was torn out, and the only door remained locked, the elephant had not been removed through the rent, but by some other, undiscovered outlet. All agreed that the robbers had made that rent only to mislead the detectives, that never would have occurred to me, that never would have occurred to me, or to any other layman perhaps, but it had not deceived the detectives for a moment. Thus, what I had supposed was the only thing that had no mystery about it was, in fact, the very thing I had gone furthest astray in. The 11 theories all named the supposed robbers, but no two named the same robbers. The total number of suspected persons was 37. The various newspaper accounts all closed with the most important opinion of all, that of Chief Inspector Blunt. A portion of this statement read as follows. The Chief knows who the two principals are, namely Brick Duffy and Red McFadden. 10 days before the robbery was achieved, he was already aware that it was to be attempted and had quietly proceeded to shadow these two noted villains. But, unfortunately, on the night in question, their track was lost, and before it could be found again, the bird was flown. That is, the elephant. Duffy and McFadden are the boldest scoundrels in the profession. The Chief has reasons for believing that they are the men who stole the stove out of the detective headquarters on a bitter night last winter, in consequence of which the Chief and every detective present were in the hands of the physicians before morning, some with frozen feet, others with frozen fingers, ears, and other members. When I read the first half of that, I was more astonished than ever at the wonderful sagacity of this strange man. He not only saw everything in the present with a clear eye, but even the future could not be hidden from him. I was soon at his office, and said I could not help wishing he had those men arrested, and so prevented the trouble and loss, but his reply was simple and unanswerable. It is not our province to prevent crime, but to punish it. We cannot punish it until it is committed. I remarked that the secrecy with which we had begun had been marred by the newspapers. Not only all our facts, but all our plans and purposes had been revealed. Even all the suspected persons had been named. These would doubtless disguise themselves now, or go into hiding. Let them. They will find that when I am ready for them, my hand will descend upon them, in their secret places, as unerringly as the hand of fate. As to the newspapers, we must keep in with them. Fame, reputation, constant public mention, these are the detective's bread and butter. He must publish his facts, else he will be supposed to have none. He must publish his theory, for nothing is so strange or striking as a detective's theory, or brings him so much wonderful respect. We must publish our plans, for these the journals insist upon having, and we could not deny them without offending. We must constantly show the public what we are doing, or they will believe we are doing nothing. It is much pleasanter to have a newspaper say, Inspector Blunt's ingenious and extraordinary theory is as follows, than to have it say some harsh thing, or, worse still, some sarcastic one. I see the force of what you say, but I notice that in one part of your remarks in the papers this morning, you refused to reveal your opinion upon a certain minor point. Yes, we always do that. It has a good effect. Besides, I had not formed any opinion on that point anyway. I deposited a considerable sum of money with the inspector to meet current expenses, and sat down to wait for news. We were expecting the telegrams to begin to arrive at any moment now. Meantime, I reread the newspapers, and also our descriptive circular, and observed that our $25,000 reward seemed to be offered only to detectives. I said I thought it ought to be offered to anybody who would catch the elephant. The inspector said, It is the detectives who will find the elephant, hence the reward will go to the right place. If other people found the animal, it would only be by watching the detectives and taking advantage of clues and indications stolen from them, and that would entitle the detectives to the reward after all. The proper office of a reward is to stimulate the men who deliver up their time and their trained sagacities to this sort of work, and not to confer benefits upon chance citizens who stumble upon a capture without having earned the benefits by their own merits and labours. This was reasonable enough, certainly. Now the telegraphic machine in the corner began to click, and the following dispatch was the result. Flower Station, NY, 7:30 a.m. Have got a clue, found a succession of deep tracks across a farm near here, followed them 2 miles east without result. Think elephant went west, shall now shadow him in that direction. Darley, detective. Darley's one of the best men on the force, said the inspector. We shall hear from him again before long. Telegram number 2 came. Barker's, NJ, 7:40 a.m. Just arrived. Glass factory broken open here during night, and 800 bottles taken. Only water in large quantity near here is 5 miles distant. Shall strike for there. Elephant will be thirsty. Bottles were empty. That promises well too, said the inspector. I told you the creature's appetites would not be bad clues. Telegram number 3. Taylorville, L.I., 8:15 a.m. A haystack near here disappeared during night. Probably eaten. Have got a clue and am off. Hubbard, detective. How he does move around, said the inspector. I knew he had a difficult job on hand, but we shall catch him yet. Flower Station, NY, 8:45 a.m. Shadowed the tracks 3 miles westward. Large, deep, and ragged. Have just met a farmer who says they are not elephant tracks. Says they are holes where he dug up saplings for shade trees when ground was frozen last winter. Give me orders how to proceed. Darley, detective. Aha! A confederate of the thieves. The thing grows warm, said the inspector. He dictated the following telegram to Darley. Arrest the man and force him to name his pals. Continue to follow the tracks, to the Pacific if necessary. Chief Blunt. Next telegram. Coney Point, PA, 9 a.m. Gas office broken open here during night and 3 months unpaid gas bills taken. Have got a clue and am away. Murphy, detective. Heavens, said the inspector. He would eat gas bills. Through ignorance, yes, but they cannot support life, at least unassisted. Now came this exciting telegram. Ironville, NY, 9:30 a.m. Just arrived. This village in consternation. Elephant passed through here at 5 this morning. Some say he went east, some say west, some north, some south. But all say they did not wait to notice particularly. He killed a horse, have secured a piece of it for a clue. Killed it with his trunk. From style of blow, think he struck it left-handed. From position in which horse lies, think elephant travelled northward along line of Berkeley Railway. Has 4.5 hours start, but I move on his track at once. Horse, detective. I uttered exclamations of joy. The inspector was as self-contained as a graven image. He calmly touched his bell. Alaric, send Captain Burns here. Burns appeared. How many men are ready for instant orders? 96, sir. Send them north at once. Let them concentrate along the line of the Berkeley Road north of Ironville. Yes, sir. Let them conduct their movements with the utmost secrecy. As fast as others are at liberty, hold them for orders. Yes, sir. Go. Yes, sir. Presently came another telegram. Sage Corners, NY, 10:30. Just arrived. Elephant passed through here at 8:15. All escaped from the town but a policeman. Apparently, elephant did not strike at policeman, but at the lamp-post. Got both. I have secured a portion of the policeman as clue. Stum, detective. So, the elephant has turned westward, said the inspector. However, he will not escape, for my men are scattered all over that region. The next telegram said, Glover's, 11:15. Just arrived. Village deserted, except sick and aged. Elephant passed through 3/4 of an hour ago. The anti-temperance mass meeting was in session. He put his trunk in at a window and washed it out with water from cistern. Some swallowed it, since dead. Several drowned. Detectives Cross and O'Shaughnessy were passing through town, but going south, so missed elephant. Whole region for many miles around in terror. People flying from their homes. Wherever they turn, they meet elephant, and many are killed. Brandt, detective. I could have shed tears. This havoc so distressed me. But the inspector only said, You see, we are closing in on him. He feels our presence. He has turned eastward again. Yet further troublous news was in store for us. The telegraph brought this. Hogansport, 12:19. Just arrived. Elephant passed through half an hour ago, creating wildest fright and excitement. Elephant raged around streets. 2 plumbers going by. Killed 1. Other escaped. Regret general. O'Flaherty, detective. Now he is right in the midst of my men, said the inspector. Nothing can save him. A succession of telegrams came from detectives who were scattered through New Jersey and Pennsylvania, who were following clues consisting of ravaged barns, factories, and Sunday school libraries, with high hopes amounting to certainties indeed. The inspector said, "I wish I could communicate with them and order them north, but that is impossible. A detective only visits a telegraph office to send his report. Then he is off again, and you don't know where to put your hand on him." Now came this dispatch. Bridgeport, CT 1215. Barnum offers rate of $4,000 a year for exclusive privilege of using elephant as travelling advertising medium, from now till detectives find him. Wants to paste circus posters on him. Desires immediate answer. Boggs, detective. "That is perfectly absurd," I exclaimed. "Of course it is," said the inspector. "Evidently Mr. Barnum, who thinks he is so sharp, does not know me. But I know him." Then he dictated his answer to the dispatch. "Mr. Barnum's offer declined. Make it 7,000 or nothing, Chief Blunt." "There. We shall not have to wait long for an answer. Mr. Barnum is not at home. He is in the telegraph office. It is his way when he has business on hand. Inside of 3... Done. P.T. Barnum." So interrupted the clicking telegraphic instrument. Before I could make a comment upon this extraordinary episode, the following dispatch carried my thoughts into another and very distressing channel. Bolivia, NY, 1250. Elephant arrived here from the south and passed through toward the forest at 11:50, dispersing a funeral on the way and diminishing the mourners by 2. Citizens fired some small cannonballs into him and then fled. Detective Burke and I arrived 10 minutes later from the north, but mistook some excavations for footprints and so lost a good deal of time. But at last we struck the right trail and followed it to the woods. We then got down on our hands and knees and continued to keep a sharp eye on the track, and so shadowed it into the brush. Burke was in advance. Unfortunately, the animal had stopped to rest. Therefore, Burke, having his head down, intent upon the track, butted up against the elephant's hind legs before he was aware of his vicinity. Burke instantly arose to his feet, seized the tail, and exclaimed joyfully, "I claim the but got no further, for a single blow of the huge trunk laid the brave fellow's fragments low in death. I fled rearward, and the elephant turned and shadowed me to the edge of the wood, making tremendous speed, and I should inevitably have been lost, but the remains of the funeral providentially intervened again and diverted his attention. I have just learned that nothing of that funeral is now left, but this is no loss, for there is abundance of material for another. Meantime, the elephant has disappeared again. Mulrooney, detective. We heard no news except from the diligent and confident detectives scattered about New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Virginia, who were all following fresh and encouraging clues, until shortly after 2 p.m. when this telegram came. Baxter Center, 2:15. Elephant been here, plastered over with circus bills, and broke up a revival, striking down and damaging many who were on the point of entering upon a better life. Citizens penned him up and established a guard. When Detective Brown and I arrived sometime after, we entered enclosure and proceeded to identify elephant by photograph and description. All marks tallied exactly except one, which we could not see, the boil scar under armpit. To make sure, Brown crept under to look, and was immediately brained. That is, head crushed and destroyed, though nothing issued from debris. All fled, so did Elephant, striking right and left with much effect. Has escaped, but left bold blood track from cannon wounds. Rediscovery certain. He broke southward through a dense forest. Brent, detective. That was the last telegram. At nightfall, a fog shut down which was so dense that objects but 3 feet away could not be discerned. This lasted all night. The ferry boats and even the omnibuses had to stop running. Part 3. Next morning, the papers were as full of detective theories as before. They had all our tragic facts in detail also, and a great many more which they had received from their telegraphic correspondence. Column after column was occupied, a third of its way down with glaring headlines which it made my heart sick to read. Their general tone was like this. The white elephant at large. He moves upon his fatal march. Whole villages deserted by their fright-stricken occupants. Pale terror goes before him, death and devastation follow after. After these, the detectives. Barns destroyed, factories gutted, harvests devoured, public assemblages dispersed, accompanied by scenes of carnage impossible to describe. Theories of 34 of the most distinguished detectives on the force. Theory of Chief Blunt. There, said Inspector Blunt, almost betrayed into excitement. This is magnificent. This is the greatest windfall that any detective organization ever had. The fame of it will travel to the ends of the earth and endure to the end of time, and my name with it. But there was no joy for me. I felt as if I had committed all those crimes, and that the elephant was only my irresponsible agent. Then how the list had grown! In one place he had interfered with an election and killed 5 repeaters. He had followed this act with the destruction of 2 poor fellows, named O'Donoghue and McFlanagan, who had found a refuge in the home of the oppressed of all lands only the day before, and were in the act of exercising for the first time the noble right of American citizens at the polls, when stricken down by the relentless hand of the scourge of Siam. In another, he had found a crazy sensation preacher preparing his next season's heroic attacks on the dance, the theatre, and other things which can't strike back, and stepped on him. And in still another place he had killed a lightning rod agent. And so the list went on, growing redder and more heartbreaking. 60 persons had been killed and 240 wounded. All the accounts bore just testimony to the activity and devotion of the detectives, and all closed with the remark that 300,000 citizens and 4 detectives saw the dread creature, and 2 of the latter he destroyed. I dreaded to hear the telegraphic instrument begin to click again. By and by the messages began to pour in, but I was happily disappointed in their nature. It was soon apparent that all trace of the elephant was lost. The fog had enabled him to search out a good hiding place unobserved. Telegrams from the most absurdly distant points reported that a dim, vast mass had been glimpsed there through the fog at such and such an hour, and was undoubtedly the elephant. This dim, vast mass had been glimpsed in the New Haven, in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, in interior New York, in Brooklyn, and even in the city of New York itself. But in all cases the dim, vast mass had vanished quickly and left no trace. Every detective of the large force scattered over this huge extent of country sent his hourly report, and each and every one of them had a clue and was shadowing something, and was hot upon the heels of it. But the day passed without other result. The next day the same. The next just the same. The newspaper reports began to grow monotonous with facts that amounted to nothing, clues which led to nothing, and theories which had nearly exhausted the elements which surprise and delight and dazzle. By advice of the inspector, I doubled the reward. 4 more dull days followed. Then came a bitter blow to the poor, hard-working detectives. The journalist declined to print their theories and coldly said, "Give us a rest." 2 weeks after the elephant's disappearance, I raised the reward to $75,000 by the inspector's advice. It was a great sum, but I felt that I would rather sacrifice my whole private fortune than lose my credit with my government. Now that the detectives were in adversity, the newspapers turned upon them, and began to fling the most stinging sarcasms at them. The caricaturists made pictures of detectives scanning the country with spyglasses, while the elephant, at their backs, stole apples out of their pockets. And they made all sorts of ridiculous pictures of the detective badge. You have never seen that badge printed in gold on the back of detective novels. You have seen that badge printed in gold on the back of detective novels, no doubt. It is a wide staring eye with the legend, "We never sleep." When detectives called for a drink, the would-be facetious barkeeper resurrected an obsolete form of expression with, "Will you have an eye-opener?" All the air was thick with sarcasms. But there was one man who moved calm, untouched, unaffected through it all. It was that heart of oak, the chief inspector. His brave eye never drooped. His serene confidence never wavered. He always said, "Let them rail on. He laughs best who laughs last." My admiration for the man grew into a species of worship. I was at his side, always. His office had become His office had become an unpleasant place to me, and now became daily more and more so. Yet, if he could endure it, I meant to do so also, at least as long as I could. So I came regularly and stayed, the only outsider who seemed to be capable of it. Everybody wondered how I could, and often it seems to me that I must desert, but at such times I looked into that calm and apparently unconscious face and held my ground. About 3 weeks after the elephant's disappearance, I was about to say, one morning, that I should have to strike my colours and retire, when the great detective arrested the thought by proposing one more superb and masterly move. This was to compromise with the robbers. The fertility of this man's invention exceeded anything I have ever seen, and I have had a wide intercourse with the world's finest minds. He said he was confident he could compromise for $100,000 and recover the elephant. I said I believed I could scrape the amount together, but what would become of the poor detectives who had worked so faithfully? He said, "In compromises they always get half." This removed my only objection. So the inspector wrote 2 notes in this form. "Dear Madam, your husband can make a large sum of money and be entirely protected from the law by making an immediate appointment with me, Chief Blunt." He sent one of these by his confidential messenger to the reputed wife of Brick Duffy, and the other to the reputed wife of Red McFadden. Within the hour these offensive answers came. "You old fool, Brick Duffy's been dead 2 years. Bridget Mahoney. "Chief Bat, Red McFadden is hung and in heaven 18 months. Any ass but a detective knows that. Mary O'Hooligan." "I had long suspected these facts," said the inspector. "This testimony proves the unerring accuracy of my instinct." The moment one resource failed him, he was ready with another. He immediately wrote an advertisement for the morning papers, and I kept a copy of it. A-XWBLV 242N TJND-FZ328 WMLG OZPO-2M OGW Mum. He said that if the thief was alive, this would bring him to the usual rendezvous. He further explained that the usual rendezvous was a place where all business affairs between detectives and criminals were conducted. This meeting would take place at 12 the next night. We could do nothing till then, and I lost no time in getting out of the office, and was grateful indeed for the privilege. At 11 the next night, I brought $100,000 in banknotes and put them into the chief's hands, and shortly afterward he took his leave, with the brave old undimmed confidence in his eye. An almost intolerable hour dragged to the close. Then I heard his welcome tread, and rose gasping and tottered to meet him. How his fine eyes flamed with triumph. He said, "We've compromised. The jokers will sing a different tune tomorrow. Follow me." Excuse me. He took a lighted candle and strode down into the vast vaulted basement where 60 detectives always slept, and where a score were now playing cards to while the time. I followed close after him. He walked swiftly down to the dim and remote end of the place, and just as I succumbed to the pangs of suffocation and was swooning away, he stumbled and fell over the outlying members of a mighty object, and I heard him exclaim as he went down, "Our noble profession is vindicated! Here is your elephant!" I was carried to the above office and restored with carbolic acid. The whole detective force swarmed in, and such another season of triumphant rejoicing ensued as I have never witnessed before. The reporters were called, baskets of champagne were opened, Toasts were drunk, the handshakings and congratulations were continuous and enthusiastic. Naturally, the chief was the hero of the hour, and this happiness was so complete and had been so patiently and worthily and bravely won that it made me happy to see it, though I stood there a homeless beggar, my priceless charge dead, and my position in my country's service lost to me through what would always seem my fatally careless execution of a great trust. Many an eloquent eye testified its deep admiration for the chief, and many a detective's voice murmured, "Look at him, just the king of the profession. Only give him a clue, it's all he wants, and there ain't anything hid that he can't find." The dividing of the $50,000 made great pleasure. When it was finished, the chief made a little speech while he put his share in his pocket, in which he said, "Enjoy it, boys, for you've earned it. And, more than that, you've earned for the detective profession undying fame." A telegram arrived which read, "Monroe, Mitch, 10 p.m. First time I've struck a telegraph office in over 3 weeks. Have followed those footprints, horseback, through the woods, 1,000 miles to here, and they get stronger and bigger and fresher every day. Don't worry, inside of another week I'll have the elephant. This is dead sure. Darley, Detective." The chief ordered 3 cheers for Darley, one of the finest minds on the force, and then commanded that he be telegraphed to come home and receive his share of the reward. So ended the marvellous episode of the stolen elephant. The newspapers were pleasant with praises once more the next day, with one contemptible exception. This sheet said, "Great is the detective. He may be a little slow in finding a little thing like a mislaid elephant. He may hunt him all day and sleep with his rotting carcass all night for 3 weeks, but he will find him at last, if he can get the man who mislaid him to show him the place." Poor Hassan was lost to me forever. The cannon shots had wounded him fatally. He had crept to that unfriendly place in the fog, and there, surrounded by his enemies and in constant danger of detection, he had wasted away with hunger and suffering till death gave him peace. The compromise cost me $100,000. My detective expenses were $42,000 more. I never applied for a place again under my government. I am ruined. I am a ruined man and a wanderer on the earth. But my admiration for that man, whom I believe to be the greatest detective the world has ever produced, remains undimmed to this day, and will so remain unto the end. Thank you for listening. Yeah. I think that one's very funny. Yes, the elephant's fate is sad, but you probably heard it. I nearly lost it a couple of times. Particularly, but the remains of the funeral providentially intervened again and diverted his attention. I have just learned that nothing of that funeral is now left, but this is no loss, for there is abundance of material for another. The jokes in those telegrams are so good. I am in awe. You laughed out loud many times. I nearly broke at that point. I had read it earlier. It is so dry. It is so straight-faced. Yeah. There are so many good bits in this. I was trying to turn pages and stuff to. Oh yeah, in another he had found a crazy sensation preacher preparing his next season's heroic attacks on the dance, the theatre, and other things which can't strike back, and had stepped on him. And there's still another place he had killed a lightning rod agent. Exquisite callback, Mark Twain. Wonderful work. And also, attacking a preacher who was attacking yeah, dance the theory and other things that can't strike back. Like, I think this one is excellent. It is truly wonderfully funny. Plus, you've got Darley the expert detective, which I appreciated. Self-reference, nice one, Twain. Like, it's so good. It is, like, yeah, I like. There are so many good bits in this one. Yeah, I'm in awe. I'm full of respect. This one is powerfully funny. Yeah, but yes, it is break time. So I'm going to send you all to a break. Great variation on the detective story as well. Yeah, it's I love the constant, incessant, just unbearable reverence and adulation, the sheer respect that is so dripping with the author's sarcasm and cynicism that the narrator just heaps upon the detective. How wonderful, how amazing, how intelligent, how razor sharp, how thorough and unwavering they are in their job. And you're just like, mate, just the whole way through. It's, yeah. And the elephant does some good work. It's, yeah. All of these accounts, yeah. Oh yeah, the again, animals dying, unfortunately, but he killed a horse, have secured a piece of it for a clue, and then it's like a minute later, apparently elephant did not strike a policeman, but the lamppost got both. I have secured a portion of the policeman as clue. It's, yeah. Inspector reminded you a bit of a certain bosun. I feel like I should know that, but I can't think. I'm blank. Such a Watsonish admiration for someone that completely doesn't deserve it. Yeah. It's that's I think that's going down there as one of my favourites that I've read by Mark Twain so far. I think that and Political Economy are my current favourites. They're both very good. Yes, anyway, I'm going to go to a break. So I will send you there and see you back here in about 5 minutes or so. You know what to do. It's time to move around, stretch the limbs you've got, cycle some fluids. See you back in about 5 minutes or so, friends. Bye for now. we're back. Welcome back. Hi. I'll obviously not just slam straight into the next story, because that would be silly. But yeah, let people filter back. Thank you, Lama, as well. Yes, Lady Mephistopheles has set up a jigsaw with over on the Discord. If you're on the Discord, well, obviously we pin stories at the top of chat rather than jigsaws and things, but also, you know, I feel like that's Billiam's bit, and I wouldn't want to steal that. But that is no problem with people doing the jigsaws. So yeah, go click on over the Discord and do a jigsaw if that's something that takes your fancy. They're a lot of fun. Love doing them. Yeah, go do that. I am hoping Lucy is still around and present to pin this. If I do, actually, is it gonna let me do it on the main? I can still do it as the main Chilliteracy account, so I can do that. For some reason, my own personal account, I guess, is barred from pinning things, which is weird. But yes, this will be the next story. It's a very short one. It's called Luck. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, how are we? How are we all doing? Are we good? So actually, yeah, so the other day, where is it? Shout out. On the last stream, I felt bad because I was like tabbed out for a minute when he got a raise from Sean Moore. Sean Morley, I think his name is, who is raided us a couple of times now because I meant to follow his account on my own Darley Sam account, and was logged in as Chilliteracy at the time and followed him on that, and since then he's raided over here a few times, which is really lovely of him. I've been like enjoying his work since over lockdown. I encountered a bizarre live streamed game show that he was involved in called Escape the North, which was a lot of fun, very silly. And he's got a really fun stream, and so I was finally for reals remembered to go and watch his stream the other day. Yeah, yesterday was Friday. Yes, it was yesterday. And it was good, so I'm just going to give him a shout out and say go chuck him a follow. It's a fun stream. He's a fun guy. Seems cool. And yeah, I was playing Mystery of the Druids, which is kind of a game of legend. It's I mean, if nothing else, the box art for it is a pretty memorable picture of sort of a slightly poorly modelled druid face going ah. If you look it up, that was a perfect description. And yeah, it's a weird game. It's not very good, but watching funny people play not very good games is always a pleasure of mine. So yeah, go give them a follow. But right, are we here? Are we all back? Are we ready for more Mark Twain distractions? Because I have. Oh no, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong story. Let's go to the right one. Yeah, this is a short one, and then we have probably just one more. We are here. We are ready. Excellent. Right. This is a short one. It is very simply titled Luck by Mark Twain. The new fragrance. For him, for her, for them. That part's not true. He wasn't doing a Calvin Klein advert. It was at a banquet in London in honour of one of the 2 or 3 conspicuously illustrious English military names of this generation. For reasons which will presently appear, I will withhold his real name and titles, and call him Lieutenant General Lord Arthur Scoresby, Y.C., K.C.B., etc., etc., etc. What a fascination there is in a renowned name. There sat the man, in actual flesh, whom I had heard of so many thousands of times since that day 30 years before, when his name shot suddenly to the zenith from a Crimean battlefield, to remain forever celebrated. It was food and drink to me to look and look and look at that demigod, scanning, searching, noting the quietness, the reserve, the noble gravity of his countenance, the simple honesty that expressed itself all over him, the sweet unconsciousness of his greatness, unconsciousness of the hundreds of admiring eyes fastened upon him, unconsciousness of the deep, loving, sincere worship welling out of the breasts of those people and flowing toward him. The clergyman at my left was an old acquaintance of mine. Clergyman now, but had spent the first half of his life in the camp and field and as an instructor in the military school at Woolwich. Just at the moment I have been talking about, a veiled and singular light glimmered in his eyes, and he leaned down and muttered confidentially to me, indicating the hero of the banquet with a gesture, "Privately, he's an absolute fool." The verdict was a great surprise to me. If its subject had been Napoleon or Socrates or Solomon, my astonishment could not have been greater. Two things I was well aware of: that the Reverend was a man of strict veracity, and that his judgment of men was good. Therefore I knew, beyond doubt or question, that the world was mistaken about this hero. He was a fool. So I meant to find out, at a convenient moment, how the Reverend, all solitary and alone, had discovered the secret. Some days later, the opportunity came, and this is what the Reverend told me. About 40 years ago, I was an instructor in the military academy at Woolwich. I was present in one of the sections when young Scoresby underwent his preliminary examination. I was touched to the quick with pity, for the rest of the class answered up brightly and handsomely, while why dear me, he didn't know anything, so to speak. He was evidently good and sweet and lovable and guileless, and so it was exceedingly painful to see him stand there, as serene as a graven image, and deliver himself of answers which were veritably miraculous for stupidity and ignorance. All the compassion in me was aroused in his behalf. I said to myself, when he comes to be examined again, he will be flung over, of course, so it will be simply a harmless act of charity to ease his fall as much as I can. I took him aside and found that he knew a little of Caesar's history, and as he didn't know anything else, I went to work and drilled him like a galley slave on a certain line of stock questions concerning Caesar which I knew would be used. If you'll believe me, he went through with flying colours on examination day. He went through on that purely superficial cram, and got compliments too, while others, who knew 1,000 times more than he, got plucks. By some strangely lucky accident, an accident not likely to happen twice in a century, he was asked no question outside of the narrow limits of his drill. It was stupefying. Well, all through his course I stood by him with something of the sentiment which a mother feels for a crippled child. He always saved himself, just by miracle, apparently. Now, of course, the thing that would expose him and kill him at last was mathematics. I resolved to make his death as easy as I could, so I drilled him and crammed him and crammed him and drilled him, just on the line of questions which the examiners would be most likely to use, and then launched him on his fate. Well, sir, try to conceive the result. To my consternation, he took the first prize, and with it he got a perfect ovation in the way of compliments. Sleep? There was no more sleep for me for a week. My conscience tortured me day and night. What I had done purely through charity, only to ease the poor youth's fall. I had never dreamed of any such preposterous results as the thing which had happened. I felt as guilty and miserable as Frankenstein. Here was a wooden head whom I had put in the way of glittering promotions and prodigious responsibilities, and but one thing could happen. He and his responsibilities would all go to ruin together at the first opportunity. The Crimean War had just broken out. Of course, there had to be a war, I said to myself. We couldn't have peace and give this donkey a chance to die before he is found out. I waited for the earthquake. It came, and it made me reel when it did come. He was actually gazetted to a captaincy in a marching regiment. Better men grow old and grey in the service before they climb to a sublimity like that. And who could ever have foreseen that they would go and put such a load of responsibility on such green and inadequate shoulders? I could just barely have stood it if they had made him a cornet, but a captain? Think of it. I thought my hair would turn white. Consider what I did. I, who so loved repose and inaction. I said to myself, I am responsible to the country for this, and I must go along with him and protect the country against him as far as I can. So I took my poor little capital that I had saved up through years of work and grinding economy, and went with a sigh and bought a cornetcy and his regiment, and away we went to the field. And there, oh dear, it was awful. Blunders? Why, he never did anything but blunder. But, you see, nobody was in the fellow's secret. Everybody had him focused wrong and necessarily misinterpreted his performance every time. Consequently, they took his idiotic blunders for inspirations of genius. They did, honestly. His mildest blunders were enough to make a man in his right mind cry, and they did make me cry, and rave too, privately. And the thing that kept me always in a sweat of apprehension was the fact that every fresh blunder he made increased the lustre of his reputation. I kept saying to myself, he'll get so high that when discovery does finally come, it will be like the sun falling out of the sky. He went right along up, from grade to grade, over the dead bodies of his superiors, until at last, in the hottest moment of the battle down went our colonel, and my heart jumped into my mouth, for Scoresby was next in rank. Now for it, said I, we'll all land in Sheol in 10 minutes, sure. The battle was awfully hot. The Allies were steadily giving way all over the field. Our regiment occupied a position that was vital. A blunder now must be destruction. At this crucial moment, what does this immortal fool do but detach the regiment from its place and order a charge over a neighbouring hill where there wasn't a suggestion of an enemy? There you go, I said to myself. This is the end at last. And away we did go, and were over the shoulder of the hill before the insane movement could be discovered and stopped. And what did we find? An entire and unsuspected Russian army in reserve. And what happened? We were eaten up? That is necessarily what would have happened in 99 cases out of 100. But no, and those Russians argued that no single regiment would come browsing around there at such a time. It must be the entire English army, and that the sly Russian game was detected and blocked. So they turned tail and away they went, pell-mell over the hill and down into the field in wild confusion, and we after them. They themselves broke the solid Russian centre in the field and tore through, and in no time there was the most tremendous rout you ever saw, and the defeat of the Allies was turned into a sweeping and splendid victory. Marshal Canrobert looked on, dizzy with astonishment, admiration and delight. He sent right off for Scoresby, and hugged him, and decorated him on the field in the presence of all the armies. And what was Scoresby's blunder that time? Merely the mistaking his right hand for his left, that was all. An order had come for him to fall back and support our right, and instead he fell forward and went over the hill to the left. But the name he won that day as a marvellous military genius filled the world with his glory, and that glory will never fade while history books last. He is just as good and sweet and lovable and unpretending as a man can be, but he doesn't know enough to come in when it rains. Now that is absolutely true. He is the supremest ass in the universe, and until excuse me. And until half an hour ago nobody knew it but himself and me. He has been pursued, day by day and year by year, by a most phenomenal and astonishing luckiness. He has been a shining soldier in all our wars for a generation. He has littered his whole military life with blunders, and yet has never committed one that didn't make him a knight, or a baronet, or a lord or something. Look at his breast. Why, he is just clothed in domestic and foreign decorations. Well, sir, every one of them is the record of some shouting stupidity or other, and, taken together, they are proof that the very best thing in all this world that can befall a man is to be born lucky. I say again, as I said at the banquet, Scoresby's an absolute fool. And I said it was short, and there we go, that's the end of luck. So, you know, it's better to be lucky than good. And that's just getting the next one. I'm just remembering how to type, don't mind me. And yeah, and that was lucky. Or luck, sorry, luck, not lucky. Whoops. And this will be, are you gonna, yeah, why? Thank you. I don't know why Twitch is not letting me pin from my own account. I could have done the literacy one, but I thought I'd try that again. No, it's just broken. Cool. But yeah, there we go. No idea. No, Twitch is what it will do. But yeah, this is probably going to be the last one for tonight. Be a bit longer than that, but does this have any? Do I have any notes? Nothing that I think I need to call out or worry about or rapidly learn how to pronounce on the fly. No, I think we're okay. Right. No, we just got a lot of dialogue in this one. Cool. Okay. If we are all ready. I'm not. 1 second. I am back. Apologies. Right. If we are all ready, then we shall go into our last story, which has two slightly different titles. In my book, it is Playing Courier. In the Link's text, it is Playing the Courier. I am reasonably confident they are the same story, so we shall read that. By Mark Twain. A time would come when we must go from Aix-les-Bains to Geneva, and from thence, by a series of day-long and tangled journeys, to Bayreuth in Bavaria. I should have to have a courier, of course, to take care of so considerable a party as mine. But I procrastinated. The time slipped along, and at last I woke up one day to the fact that we were ready to move and had no courier. I then resolved upon what I felt was a foolhardy thing, but I was in the humour of it. I said I would make the first stage without help. I did it. I brought the party from Aix to Geneva by myself, 4 people. The distance was 2 hours and more, and there was one change of cars. There was not an accident of any kind, except leaving a valise and some other matters on the platform, a thing which can hardly be called an accident, as it is so common, so I offered to conduct the party all the way to Bayreuth. This was a blunder, though it did not seem so at the time. There was more detail than I thought there would be. 1. 2 persons whom we had left in a Genevan pension home some weeks before must be collected and brought to the hotel. 2. I must notify the people on the Grand Quay who store trunks to bring 7 of our stored trunks to the hotel and carry back 7 which they would find piled in the lobby. 3. I must find out what part of Europe Bayreuth was in and buy 7 railway tickets for that point. 4. I must send a telegram to a friend in the Netherlands. 5. It was now 2 in the afternoon, and we must look sharp and be ready for the first night train, and make sure of sleeping car tickets. 6. I must draw money at the bank. It seemed to me that the sleeping car tickets must be the most important thing, so I went to the station myself to make sure. Hotel messengers are not always brisk people. It was a hot day, and I ought to have driven, but it seemed better economy to walk. It did not turn out so, because I lost my way and trebled the distance. I applied for the tickets, and they asked me which route I wanted to go by, and that embarrassed me and made me lose my head. There were so many people standing around, and I not knowing anything about the routes and not supposing there were going to be 2. So I judged it best to go back and map out the road and come again. I took a cab this time, but on my way upstairs at the hotel I remembered that I was out of cigars, so I thought it would be well to get some while the matter was in my mind. It was only round the corner, and I didn't need the cab. I asked the cabman to wait where he was. Thinking of the telegram and trying to word it in my head, I forgot the cigars and the cab, and walked on indefinitely. I was going to have the hotel people send a telegram, but as I could not be far from the post office by this time, I thought I would do it myself. But it was further than I had supposed. I found the place at last and wrote the telegram and handed it in. The clerk was a severe-looking, fidgety man, and he began to fire French questions at me in such a liquid form that I could not detect the joints between the words, and this made me lose my head again. But an Englishman stepped up and said the clerk wanted to know where he was to send the telegram. I could not tell him, because it was not my telegram, and I explained that I was merely sending it for a member of my party. But nothing would pacify the clerk but the address, so I said that if he was so particular, I would go back and get it. However, I thought I would go and collect those lacking 2 persons first, for it would be best to do everything systematically and in order, and one detail at a time. Then I remembered the cab was eating up my substance down at the hotel yonder, so I called another cab and told the man to go down and fetch it to the post office and wait till I came. I had a long, hot walk to collect those people, and when I got there they couldn't come with me because they had heavy satchels and must have a cab. I went away to find one, but before I ran across any, I noticed that I had reached the neighbourhood of the Grand Quay. At least I thought I had, so I judged I could save time by stepping around and arranging about the trunks. I stepped around about a mile, and although I did not find the Grand Quay, I found a cigar shop, and remembered about the cigars. I said I was going to Beirut, and wanted enough for the journey. The man asked me which route I was going to take. I said I did not know. He said he would recommend me go by Zurich, and various other places which he named, and offered to sell me 7 second-class through tickets for $22 apiece, which would be throwing off the discount which the railroad allowed him. I was already tired of riding second-class on first-class tickets, so I took him up. By and by, I found Natural & Co.'s storage office and told them to send 7 of our trunks to the hotel and pile them up in the lobby. It seemed to me that I was not delivering the whole of the message. Still, it was all I could find in my head. Next, I found the bank and asked for some money, but I had left my letter of credit somewhere and was not able to draw. I remembered now that I must have left it lying on the table where I wrote my telegram, so I got a cab and drove to the post office and went upstairs, and they said that a letter of credit had indeed been left on the table, but that it was now in the hands of the police authorities, and it would be necessary for me to go there and prove property. They sent a boy with me, and we went out the back way and walked a couple of miles and found the place. And then I remembered about my cabs, and asked the boy to send them to me when he got back to the post office. It was nightfall now, and the mayor had gone to dinner. I thought I would go to dinner myself, but the officer on duty thought differently, and I stayed. The mayor dropped in at 10:30, but said it was too late to do anything tonight. Come at 9:30 in the morning. The officer wanted to keep me all night, and said I was a suspicious-looking person, and probably did not own the letter of credit, and didn't know what a letter of credit was, but merely saw the real owner leave it lying on the table, and wanted to get it because I was probably a person that would want anything he could get, whether it was valuable or not. But the mayor said he saw nothing suspicious about me, and that I seemed a harmless person and nothing the matter with me but a wandering mind, and not much of that. So I thanked him, and he set me free, and I went home in my 3 cabs. As I was dog-tired, and in no condition to answer questions with discretion, I thought I would not disturb the expedition. I thought I would not disturb the expedition at that time of night, as there was a vacant room I knew of at the other end of the hall. But I did not quite arrive there, as a watch had been set, the expedition being anxious about me. I was placed in a galling situation. The expedition sat stiff and forbidding on 4 chairs in a row, with shawls and things all on, satchels and guidebooks in lap. They had been sitting like that for 4 hours, and the glass going down all the time. Yes, and they were waiting for me. It seemed to me that nothing but a sudden, happily contrived and brilliant tour de force could break this iron front and make a diversion in my favour, so I shied my hat into the arena and followed it with a skip and a jump, shouting blithely, "Ha ha! Here we all are, Mr. Merriman!" Nothing could be deeper or stiller than the absence of applause which followed. But I kept on, There seemed no other way, though my confidence, poor enough before, had got a deadly check and was in effect gone. I tried to be jocund out of a heavy heart. I tried to touch the other hearts there and soften the bitter resentment in those faces by throwing off bright and airy fun and making of the whole ghastly thing a joyously humorous incident. But this idea was not well conceived. It was not the right atmosphere for it. I got not one smile, not one line in those offended faces relaxed. I thought nothing of the winter that looked out of those frosty eyes. I started one more breezy, poor effort, but the head of the expedition cut into the centre of it and said, "Where have you been?" I saw by the manner of this that the idea was to get down to cold business now, so I began my travels and was cut short again. "Where are the two others? We have been in a frightful anxiety about them." "Oh, they're all right. I was to fetch a cab. I will go straight off and—" "Sit down." "Don't you know it is 11 o'clock? Where did you leave them?" "At the pension." "Why didn't you bring them?" "Because we couldn't carry the satchels, and so I thought—" "Thought? You should not try to think. One cannot think without the proper machinery. It is 2 miles to that pension. Did you go there without a cab?" Well, I didn't intend to. It only happened so." "How did it happen so?" "Because I was at the post office, and I remembered that I had left a cab waiting there, and so, to stop that expense, I sent another cab to what?" "Well, I don't remember now, but I think the new cab was to have the hotel pay the old cab and send it away." "What good would that do?" "What good would it do? It would stop the expense, wouldn't it? By putting the new cab in its place to continue the expense." I didn't say anything. "Why didn't you have the new cab come back for you?" "Oh, that is what I did. I remember now. Yes, that is what I did, because I recollect that when I—" "Well then, why didn't it come back for you?" "To the post office? Why, it did." "Very well, then, how did you come to walk to the pension?" I don't quite remember how that happened." "Oh, yes, I do remember now. I wrote the dispatch to send to the Netherlands, and—" "Oh, thank goodness, you did accomplish something. I wouldn't have had you fail to send—" "What makes you look like that?" "You were trying to avoid my eye. That dispatch is the most important thing that—" "You haven't sent that dispatch." "I haven't said I didn't send it. You don't need to. Oh, dear, I wouldn't have had that telegram fail for anything. Why didn't you send it?" "Well, you see, with so many things to do and think of, they're very particular there, and after that I had written the telegram—" "Oh, never mind, let it go. Explanations can't help the matter now. What would he think of us?" "Oh, that's all right. He'll think we gave the telegram to the hotel people and that they—" "Why, certainly. Why didn't you do that? There was no other rational way." "Yes, I know, but then I had it on my mind that I must be sure and get to the bank and draw some money. Well, you are entitled to some credit after all for thinking of that, and I don't wish to be too hard on you, though you must acknowledge yourself that you have cost us all a good deal of trouble, and some of it not necessary. How much did you draw?" "Well, I had an idea that—" "The what?" Well, it seems to me that in the circumstances, so many of us, you know, and what are you mooning about? Do turn your face this way and let me—" "Why, you haven't drawn any money." "Well, the banker said—" "Never mind what the banker said. You must have had a reason of your own. Not a reason exactly, but something which— Well, then the simple fact was that I hadn't my letter of credit." "Hadn't your letter of credit?" "Hadn't my letter of credit. Don't repeat me like that. Where was it?" "At the post office." "What was it doing there?" "Well, I forgot it and left it there." "Upon my word, I've seen a good many couriers, but all of the couriers that ever I've done the best I could." "Well, so you have, poor thing, and I'm wrong to abuse you when you've been working yourself to death while we've been sitting here only thinking of our vexations instead of feeling grateful for what you are trying to do for us. It will all come out right. We can take the 7:30 train in the morning just as well." You've bought the tickets? I have, and it's a bargain too, second class. I'm glad of it. Everybody else travels second class, and we might just as well save that ruinous extra charge. What did you pay? $22 apiece, through to Beirut. Why, I didn't know you could buy through tickets anywhere but in London and Paris. Some people can't, maybe, but some people can, of whom I am one of which, it appears. It seems a rather high price. On the contrary, the dealer knocked off his commission. Dealer? Yes, I bought them at a cigar shop. That reminds me, we shall have to get up early, and so there should be no packing to do. Your umbrella, your rubbers, your cigar... What is the matter? Hang it, I've left the cigars at the bank. Just think of it. Well, your umbrella? I'll have that all right, there's no hurry. What do you mean by that? Oh, that's all right, I'll take care of... Where is that umbrella? It's just the merest step. It won't take me... Where is it? Well, I think I left it at the cigar shop. But anyway, take your feet out from under that thing. It's just as I expected. Where are your rubbers? They... well, where are your rubbers? It's got so dry now. Oh, well, everybody says there's not going to be another drop of... Where are your rubbers? Well, you see... Well, it was this way. First the officer said, What officer? Police officer, but the mayor, he... What mayor? Mayor of Geneva, but I said, Wait, what is the matter with you? Who, me? Nothing. They both tried to persuade me to stay, and... Stay where? Well, the fact is, where have you been? What's kept you out till 10:30 at night? Oh, you see, after I lost my letter of credit, You are beating around the bush a good deal. Now answer the question in just one straightforward word. Where are those rubbers? They... Well, they're in the county jail. I started a placating smile, but it petrified. The climate was unsuitable. Spending 3 or 4 hours in jail did not seem to the expedition humorous. Neither did it to me, at bottom. I had to explain the whole thing, and of course it came out then that we couldn't take the early train because that would leave my letter of credit in hock still. It did look as if we had all got to go to bed estranged and unhappy, but by good luck that was prevented. There happened to be mention of the trunks, and I was able to say I had attended to that feature. There, you are just as good and thoughtful and painstaking and intelligent as you can be, and it's a shame to find so much fault with you, and there shan't be another word of it. You've done beautifully, admirably, and I'm sorry I ever said one ungrateful word to you. This hit deeper than some of the other things which made me uncomfortable, because I wasn't feeling as solid about the trunk errand as I wanted to. There seemed somehow to be a defect about it somewhere, though I couldn't put my finger on it, and didn't like to stir the matter just now, it being late and maybe well enough to let well enough alone. Of course, there was music in the morning, when it was found that we couldn't leave by the early train, but I had no time to wait. I got only the opening bars of the overture and then started out to get my letter of credit. It seemed a good time to look into the trunk business and rectify it if it needed it, and I had a suspicion that it did. I was too late. The concierge said he had shipped the trunks to Zurich that evening before. I asked him how he could do that without exhibiting passage tickets. Not necessary in Switzerland. You pay for your trunks and send them where you please. Nothing goes free but your hand baggage. How much did you pay on them? 140 francs. $28. There's something wrong with that trunk business. There's something wrong about that trunk business, sure. Next, I met the porter. He said, "You have slept well, is it not? You have the worn look. If you would like a courier, a good one has arrived last night and is not engaged for 5 days already, by the name of Ludi. We recommend him. Das heißt, the Grand Hotel Beau Rivage recommends him." I declined, with coldness. My spirit was not broken yet. and I did not like having my condition taken notice of in this way. I was at the county jail by 9 o'clock, hoping that the mayor might chance to come before his regular hour. But he didn't. It was dull there. Every time I offered to touch anything, or look at anything, or do anything, or refrain from doing anything, the policeman said it was défendu. I thought I would practice my French on him, but he wouldn't have that either. It seemed to make him particularly bitter to hear his own tongue. The mayor came at last, and then there was no trouble, for the minute he had convened the Supreme Court, they always do whenever there is valuable property to dispute, and got everything ship-shape and sentries posted, and had prayer by the chaplain, my unsealed letter was brought and opened, and there wasn't anything in it but some photographs, because, as I remembered now, I had taken out the letter of credit so as to make room for the photographs, and had put the letter in my other pocket, which I proved to everybody's satisfaction by fetching it out and showing it with a good deal of exultation. So then the court looked at each other in a vacant kind of way, and then at me, and then at each other again, and finally let me go, but said it was imprudent for me to be at large, and asked me what my profession was. I said I was a courier. They lifted up their eyes in a kind of reverent way and said, "Du lieber Gott," and I said a word of courteous thanks for their apparent admiration and hurried off to the bank. However, being a courier was already making me a great stickler for order and system, and one thing at a time and each thing in its own proper turn, so I passed by the bank and branched off and started for the 2 lacking members of the expedition. A cab lazied by, and I took it upon persuasion. I gained no speed by this, but it was a reposeful turnout, and I liked the reposefulness. The week-long jubilations over the 600th anniversary of the birth of Swiss liberty and the signing of the compact was at flood tide, and all the streets were clothed in fluttering flags. The horse and the driver had been drunk 3 days and nights, and had known no stall nor bed meantime. They looked, as I felt, dreamy and seedy. But we arrived in course of time. I went in and rang, and asked a housemaid to rush out the lacking members. She said something which I did not understand, and I returned to the chariot. The girl had probably told me that those people did not belong on her floor, and that it would be judicious for me to go higher and ring from floor to floor till I found them. For in those Swiss flats there does not seem to be any way to find the right family, but to be patient and guess your way along up. I calculated that I must wait 15 minutes, there being 3 details inseparable from an occasion of this sort. 1. Put on hats and come down and climb in. 2. Return of one to get my other glove. 3. Presently, return of the other one to fetch my French verbs at a glance. I would muse during the 15 minutes and take it easy. A very still and blank interval ensued, and then I felt a hand on my shoulder and started. The intruder was a policeman. I glanced up and perceived that there was a new scenery. There was a good deal of crowd, and they had that pleased and interested look which such a crowd wears when they see that somebody is out of luck. The horse was asleep, and so was the driver, and some boys had hung them and me full of gaudy decorations stolen from the innumerable banner poles. It was a scandalous spectacle. The officer said, "I'm sorry, but we can't have you sleeping here all day." I was wounded, and said with dignity, "I beg your pardon, I was not sleeping. I was thinking." "Well, you can think if you want to, but you've got to think to yourself. You disturb the whole neighbourhood." It was a poor joke, and it made the crowd laugh. I snore at night sometimes, but it is not likely that I would do such a thing in the daytime and in such a place. The officer undecorated us, and seemed sorry for our friendlessness, and really tried to be humane, but he said we mustn't stop there any longer, or he would have to charge us rent. It was the law, he said, and he went on to say in a sociable way that I was looking pretty mouldy, and he wished he knew. I shut him off pretty austerely, and said I hoped one might celebrate a little these days, especially when one was personally concerned. "Personally?" he asked. "How?" "Because 600 years ago an ancestor of mine signed the compact." He reflected a moment, then looked me over and said, "Ancestor? It's my opinion you signed it yourself, for of all the old ancient relics that ever but never mind about that. What is it you are waiting here for so long?" I said, "I'm not waiting here so long at all. I'm waiting 15 minutes till they forget a glove and a book and go back and get them." Then I told him who they were that I had come for. He was very obliging, and began to shout inquiries to the tiers of heads and shoulders projecting out from the window above us. Then a woman away up there sang out, "Oh, they? Why, I got them a cab and they left here long ago, 8:30, I should say." It was annoying. I glanced at my watch, but didn't say anything. The officer said, "It is 11:15, you see. You should have inquired better. You have been asleep 3/4 of an hour, and in such a sun as this, you are baked black. It is wonderful, and you will miss your train perhaps. You interest me greatly. What is your occupation?" I said I was a courier. It seemed to stun him, and before he could come to, we were gone. When I arrived in the 3rd story of the hotel, I found our quarters vacant. I was not surprised. The moment a courier takes his eye off his tribe, they go shopping. The nearer it is to train time, the surer they are to go. I sat down to try and think out what I had best do next, but presently the hall boy found me there, and said the expedition had gone to the station half an hour before. It was the first time I had known them to do a rational thing, and it was very confusing. This is one of the things that make a courier's life so difficult and uncertain. Just as matters are going the smoothest, his people will strike a lucid interval, and down go all his arrangements to wreck and ruin. The train was to leave at 12 noon sharp. It was now 10 minutes after 12. I could be at the station in 10 minutes. I saw I had no great amount of leeway, for this was the Lightning Express, and on the continent the Lightning Expresses are pretty fastidious about getting away some time during the advertised day. My people were the only ones remaining in the waiting room. Everybody else had passed through and mounted the train, as they say in those regions. They were exhausted with nervousness and fret, but I comforted them and heartened them up, and we made our rush. But no, we were out of luck again. The doorkeeper was not satisfied with the tickets. He examined them cautiously, deliberately, suspiciously, then glared at me a while, and after that he called another official. The two examined the tickets and called another official. These called others, and the convention discussed and gesticulated and carried on until I begged that they would consider how time is flying and just pass a few resolutions and let us go. They said very courteously that there was a defect in the tickets and asked me where I got them. I judged I saw what the trouble was now. You see, I had bought the tickets in a cigar shop, and of course the tobacco smell was on them. Without doubt, the thing they were up to was to work the tickets through the custom house and to collect duty on that smell. So I resolved to be perfectly frank. It is sometimes the best way. I said, "Gentlemen, I will not deceive you. These railway tickets—" "Oh, pardon, monsieur, these are not railway tickets." "Oh," I said, "is that the defect?" "Yes, truly, monsieur. These are lottery tickets, yes, and it is a lottery which has been drawn 2 years ago." I affected to be greatly amused. It is all one can do in such circumstances. It is all one can do, and yet there is no value in it. It deceives nobody, and you can see that everybody around pities you and is ashamed of you. One of the hardest situations in life, I think, is to be full of grief and a sense of defeat and shabbiness that way, and yet have to put on an outside of archness and gaiety, while all the time you know that your own expedition, the treasures of your heart, and those whose love and reverence you are, by the custom of our civilization, entitled to, are being consumed with humiliation before strangers, to see you earning and getting a compassion which is a stigma, a brand which certifies you to be anything and everything which is fatal to human respect. I said, cheerily. "It was all right, just one of those little accidents that was likely to happen to anybody. I would have the right tickets in 2 minutes, and we would catch the train yet, and, moreover, have something to laugh about all through the journey." I did get the tickets in time, all stamped and complete, but then it turned out that I couldn't take them because in taking so much pains about the 2 missing members, I had skipped the bank and hadn't the money. So then the train left, and there didn't seem to be anything to do but go back to the hotel, which we did. But it was kind of melancholy and not much said. I tried to start a few subjects, like scenery and transubstantiation and those sorts of things, but they didn't seem to hit the weather right. We had lost our good rooms, but we got some others which were pretty scattering, but would answer. I judged things would brighten now, but the head of the expedition said, "Send up the trunks." It made me feel pretty cold. There was a doubtful something about the trunk business. I was almost sure of it. I was going to suggest, but a wave of the hand sufficiently restrained me, and I was informed that we would now camp for 3 days and see if we could rest up. I said, all right, never mind ringing. I would go down and tend the trunks myself. I got a cab and went straight to Mr. Charles Natural's place and asked what order it was I had left there. To send 7 trunks to the hotel. "And were you to bring any back?" "No." "You are sure I didn't tell you to bring back 7 that would be found piled in the lobby?" "Absolutely sure you didn't." "Then the whole 14 are gone to Zurich or Jericho or somewhere, and there is going to be more debris around that hotel when the expedition—" I didn't finish, because my mind was getting to be in a good deal of a whirl, and when you are that way you think you have finished a sentence when you haven't, and you go mooning and dreaming away, and the first thing you know you get run over by a dray or a cow or something. I left the cab there. I forgot it, and on my way back I thought it all out and concluded to resign, because otherwise I should be nearly sure to be discharged. But I didn't believe it would be a good idea to resign in person. I could do it by message. So I sent for Mr. Ludi and explained that there was a courier going to resign on account of incompatibility or fatigue or something, and as he had 4 or 5 vacant days, I would like to insert him into that vacancy if he thought he could fill it. When everything was arranged, I got him to go up and say to the expedition that, owing to an error made by Mr. Natural's people, we were out of trunks here, but would have plenty in Zurich, and we'd better take the first train, freight, gravel or construction, and move right along. He attended to that and came down with an invitation for me to go up. Yes, certainly, and while we walked along over to the bank to get money and collect my cigars and tobacco, and to the cigar shop to trade back the lottery tickets and get my umbrella, and to Mr. Natural's to pay that cab and send it away, and to the county jail to get my rubbers and leave PPC cards for the mayor and Supreme Court, he described the weather to me that was prevailing on the upper levels there with the expedition, and I saw that I was doing very well where I was. I stayed out in the woods till 4 p.m. to let the weather moderate, and then turned up at the station just in time to take the 3 o'clock express for Zurich, along with the expedition, now in the hands of Ludi, who conducted its complex affairs with little apparent effort or inconvenience. Well, I had worked like a slave while I was in the office, and done the very best I knew how. Yet all that these people dwelt upon, or seemed to care to remember, were the defects of my administration, not its creditable features. They would skip over 1,000 creditable features to remark upon and reiterate the fuss about just one fact, till it seemed to me they would wear it out. And not much of a fact either, taken by itself. The fact that I elected myself Courier in Geneva and put in work enough to carry a circus to Jerusalem, and yet never even got my gang out of the town. I finally said I didn't wish to hear any more about the subject, it made me tired, and I told them to their faces that I would never be a courier again to save anybody's life, and if I live long enough I'll prove it. I think it's a difficult, brain-racking, overworked and thoroughly ungrateful office, and the main bulk of its wages is a sore heart and a bruised spirit. The end. Thank you for listening. That one nearly got me too. I now need to go back and find the bit. There's you're welcome, Lama. There was a lot of extremely good comedy writing in these ones. I did see that, hey, Mark Twain, please stop perceiving me in my anxieties, please. Like, yeah, it's very Three Men in a Boat. It also felt a little bit, knowing that we have a number of cabin pressure enjoyers in chat, it felt a little bit like Douglas and Arthur. Arthur's John Finnemore's character, right? I know, please don't yell at me. Felt a little bit like Douglas and Arthur having a conversation. The whole back and forth about where he has been all day and what he has been doing. That felt, yeah. There was some. Where was it? Oh, what? Yeah, I think I nearly broke. So I thanked him and he set me free, and I went home in my 3 cabs. That was very good. Yeah. The problem is, as I'm reading this, I'm like turning pages, like, oh, this bit was excellent, I want to go back and revisit this. And now I just sit here in silence reading it, like I've not just been reading it aloud for the last 40 minutes. Yeah. No, the officer wanted to keep me all night and said I was a suspicious-looking person and probably did not own the letter of credit and didn't know what a letter of credit was, but merely saw the real owner leave it lying on the table and wanted to get it because I was probably a person that would want anything he could get, whether it was valuable or not. But the mayor said he saw nothing suspicious about me and that I seemed a harmless person and nothing the matter with me but a wandering mind and not so much of that. That's also a wandering mind and not so much of that is... That is a sharp cut down. That is very good. And yeah, the whole back and forth about what have you been doing was good. I calculated that I must wait 15 minutes, there being 3 details inseparable from an occasion of this sort. 1. Put on hats and come down and climb in. 2. Return of one to get my other glove. 3. Presently return of the other one to fetch my French verbs at a glance. I would muse during the 15 minutes and take it easy. And yeah, the bit about the French officer not enjoying hearing his own tongue. Yeah. I beg your pardon, I was not sleeping, I was thinking. Well, you can think if you want to, but you've got to think to yourself. You disturb the whole neighbourhood. Is good. Yeah. I'm just going to sit here quietly and read this. Yeah, it's... I just enjoy it. I enjoy the farcical nature of this. Brody, you need to listen to the beginning of it because you were so distracted by the puzzle. That's fair. Turns out Twain be good. Yeah, like the fun facts. Mark Twain could tell a funny story in, I would say, a variety of different ways as well. Like the absurd farcical nature of this. I mean, a lot of the ones I've enjoyed that I found funny, and I'm assuming by extension we have found funny collectively as an audience as well, are generally of like an absurd, kind of overwrought, hyperbolic, farcical nature. But I feel like the there are distinctions in the subject matter, that it doesn't just feel like he's doing the same. He's not pulling the same trick every time. There are different ways in which the farce manifests in these, and they're all very good. Oh yeah, the bit about the train leaving as well. The train was to leave at 12 noon sharp. It was now 10 minutes after 12. I could be at the station in 10 minutes. I saw I had no great amount of leeway, for this was the Lightning Express, and on the continent the Lightning Expresses are pretty fastidious about getting away sometime during the advertised day. Like, that, there's... there are some really good bits that just... It's the... so there's a number of punchlines in this which are delivered in the manner of a missing step. Like, it is a really, like, this isn't unique to Twain. This is like you see this a lot, all over the place. No, it's a real good, like, punchline delivery vector where you send the sentence, you send the expectation one way, and then you just, like, sorry for the loud click, but it's necessary. You just, like, you misdirect right at the end, and it's like you're walking up or down a staircase and the stair's just not there, or like you hit the bottom of the stairs, but you think there's another step. That kind of whoa, and it just, like, unsets. Yes, it's like a kind of the joke equivalent of a jump scare, and it's real good. And he hits you with a few of those through the course of these ones we've done tonight and some of the others, and I really respect that. It is a joke scare, exactly. It is a very good way to deliver a gag that you don't see coming until you're past it, basically. And I was like, wait, whoa, what? Oh! It's real good. Yes, sometime during the advertised day is, yeah. Reminds you a bit of a Black Books episode as well. I would probably agree, but it's been a while since I've watched Black Books, and I can't think quite which one. I mean, I feel like there's a few. It is sadly He Who Shall Not Be Named, but it was very good at writing those kind of, like, escalating farcical situations, and then turned his life into one. Hey, thanks. Manny's life, basically. Yes, yeah. Anyway, those are our stories for this evening. That brings us to the end. So it is now time to send you off into the world. Is there something we want to ask? Billiam going? Ooh. Let's catch him before we finish. Is he just finished? No, he's still going. Good. Then let's go over and see Billiam. That sounds nice. I think you all know who he is, so needs no introduction. Right. he might be playing Stardew, he might be doing some arts and stuff at the moment, I'm not sure. But yeah, thank you all for being here. You've been a wonderful audience. This has been a fun stream. I imagine, if Lucy wants to say quickly, we'll be back on Wednesday, I expect, with further Prides and Prejudices. Maybe. The wonderful Jane Austen, which everyone seems to be enjoying, so that's cool. You're welcome. I enjoyed the reading. Both Prejudice and Pride in this economy. Wow. But yeah, thank you all. Thank you for being here. As I say, this has been a fun one. I have enjoyed reading Mark Twain. It is always a delight to find these and read them out. But I'm going to go. So we shall see you probably on Wednesday. Keep an eye on the places where the information is usually dispersed. But I'm going to go for now. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the weekend, however much of it you have left, and whatever you're up to. Stay safe, be well, look after yourselves and each other's, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye and good night.